And the fallout continues, people. This time are the Young Turks. And yes, I know I already did one on progressive media, but a special one needs to be made just for these mindless yahoos. I saw Nate the lawyer make a video on this, and shout out to him, by the way. This was his thumbnail. It's a little bit hyperbolic, admittedly, and I'm being very generous with that description. So I wanted to see the original video, which was called Ezra Klein Cusses Out the Left. Now, if you find yourself in a room where Ezra Klein is the reasonable one, the level of gone you would have to be is unfathomable. I can't imagine this scenario unless his opposition was a mental asylum escapee or something. Or he had a come to Jesus moment lately that I'm not aware of. Now, I've said before that lefties can be somewhat competent in diagnosing problems. It's the solution when they go off a cliff. However, everyone involved in this particular story is spaced out of their gore, and that includes Anna, who I would normally be more sympathetic to given her trajectory, but no, my sympathy has now reached its end. And Cenk has an extra helping of stupid here. This one is now so far gone that he and Anna actually concocts this insane conspiracy theory that involves the Democrats playing 4D chess in order to ice-pick the progressives in the skull. You will see. They don't go full MAGA, no, they go full Moron. So without further ado, let's go. Or, if maybe you want to skip all of this bollocks and go straight to the rant, go to about 1729. Now, I know some of you are thinking, wait, Spoon, how the hell did you time that with the recording? Because I'm a genius. Crack on.
Congratulations, everyone. Libs have caught on to something that we figured out 2 years ago.
That you're all a bunch of stuck-up coastal elitists who's obsessed via the smugness emanating from your own ass.
Crime is a problem.
No friggin' kidding. I will take you seriously when you grow a pair of metaphorical balls and tell the world which demographic and state-induced malevolence is the cause of said crime. Until then, I will continue to look down upon you as no more than another coward who refuses to acknowledge the reality of your failing ideological beliefs for fear of being called racist.
And if you just tell people, voters specifically, that it's not a problem, and it was way worse in the 90s, so you shouldn't be complaining, there will be backlash. There will be blood.
Actually, there will be blood either way. Although one more real than the other, let's not kid ourselves.
Okay, and so here we are. Ezra Klein was on Pod Save America to reflect on the disastrous election cycle that we just experienced for the Democratic Party. And he touched on how poorly blue cities have been run by progressive leaders. Got to keep it real.
And yet you failed to live in the real. Do you have any solutions to these problems that doesn't involve more of your ideology that landed the Democrats on their ass after Republican frying pan to the dome? I somehow doubt that.
Yeah, I follow politics, and I also live in the place I live. And I've been furious for several years now.
You've been mad for several years now, you say. Now listen here, poopsikins. I don't believe you're a stupid individual. Mostly. No, you're just corrupt. Because the reality is no one clings to failing beliefs unless they get something out of it. So I'm going to go on a limb here and say, your job is intrinsically tied to those beliefs, and to sever them would be to your financial detriment. So you shall make do with whatever ideological sewage floats your way, so long as there's a healthy check to drown out the noise of your still screaming conscience. Not to mention, I don't think your ego could stomach being branded a right-wing after years of summing for this failing ideology that's only resulted in human misery and inducing anger. There's a phrase for all of this, it's called selling your soul. But you tell me, what do you guys make of my diagnosis? I think it's spot on, frankly.
And everyone immediately, oh, Anna's just a secret right-winger. Anna's just a secret right-winger. No. I'm not a secret right-winger.
Yeah, Anna isn't honest enough to be a right-winger. Though I will give her credit, that is a pretty accurate personification of every spacker of a leftist I've seen on the Twitter.
I see the dysfunction, and I see working class Americans getting their catalytic converters stolen, okay, getting their homes broken into, getting assaulted on the subway or the train.
So you see the dysfunction, you're not the people, the policies, or the Bollock ideology responsible for said horrible policies. Tell me which demographics are responsible for the misery. Come on now, the first step in fixing a problem is admitting you have one. Devil's in the details, honey.
No, I'm not gonna wait until after the election to talk about how it's a problem. I'm gonna talk about it well before the election, so maybe Democrats, maybe progressives can recalibrate. But that's the thing about the left. They don't believe in recalibrating, okay? They think they know it all, they think they're the best, they think that anyone who crosses them or tweaks them or critiques them is the bad guy.
Wait, are you just now realizing the left are dogmatic zealots? What world do you live in? Have we slipped into some Twilight Zone level of hell here? TYT lecturing the left on their arrogant, closed-minded elitism. You're an openly progressive network and you're saying this? My word, given Anna's most memorable moments, the irony of all of this can satiate me till at least the next election.
And congratulations, in the state of California, Donald Trump flipped 10 blue counties into red counties. Let's take a look at the map. This is the electoral map. First one on the left-hand side, of course, is from 2020. And then, oh, would you look at that? One of the most liberal parts of the country has become increasingly red. I wonder why that happened.
Because your governor is about a quarter plastic and a psychopath. Look at that map. Damn, that is quite a statement. Even that liberal basket case known as California is not immune to the Trump phenomenon, which is fantastic, by the way. But hold on to that thought, though, because Anna is about to go off the rails stupid in a way that I just find... Nah, she's still a leftist, so her disconnected ramble only makes sense inside her head. Reality, on the other hand, is miles away and would strongly beg to differ.
Why did the corporate Democrats go along with the identitarian left in passing these weird laws that as I keep going back to, taking the felonies and put them into misdemeanors?
Because the money of a one named Soros told them to. I'm surprised you don't know the name. Or you probably do, but for some reason won't address the influence. I wonder why.
And that drove up crime, et cetera, in places like California and New York.
To turn the public against progressives so they never accomplish the economic policies.
That could be it. And
no, that is it.
So this is the conspiracy that I alluded to at the start. Now I have watched this at least a dozen times now. Copy's one thing, but I still have no fucking clue how on earth Anna got to that conclusion. Let's be real here. Corporate Democrats, that's just the Democrats. And the identitarian left are all progressives. You can try and make the case not all progressives are identitarians. I think you'd be wrong in this, but anyway. But all identitarians on the left are definitely progressives. And earlier on, Anna pointed out that democratic cities are run poorly thanks to progressive leaders. A shocker that is, I'm sure. So let me get this straight. In Anna's weird-ass mind, identitarian leftists sided with mainstream Democrats and enacted reality-defying, pure retard policies in order to sour the reputation of progressives in the minds of the masses so as to ultimately stop them from ever accomplishing progressive economic policies. The result of the scheme seems to be Democrats getting mauled into orbit and more Republicans getting elected. Can someone explain to me how in fuck's name anything she just said makes any sense? No, Anna, that is not the reason why. There's two reasons, and two reasons only why. One, they are ideologically captured and therefore batshit insane. Or two, they will purposely create chaos and use it to justify the expansion of the bureaucratic state, aka never let a good crisis go to waste.
We spent $13 billion in Los Angeles alone last year to combat homelessness. You wanna know where that money went? That money went to these trash nonprofits who have a bunch of executives making $500,000 a year. You're working for a nonprofit dealing with homelessness. That's my money. That's my parents' money, okay? That is the hardworking people of California paying incredibly high taxes that go to what? So yeah, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And honestly, just experiencing what I've seen on the ground in California has made me question a lot about left-wing ideology.
I think you will find those answers are far more sensible. Thank God for the Wang wisdom.
Progressives are powerless now. Okay, they have no credibility. They are completely powerless.
They never had credibility.
They refused to recalibrate. They continued promoting policies that made the lives of working class people far worse.
And why did it take you this long to notice that? Why is it that right-wingers can look at policy results before they're implemented and you gimps need to set the world on fire before you realize that is not helpful?
In liberal cities, okay? And now, no one's gonna listen to them when it comes to the bread and butter issues.
Now you see, this just makes Anna look even dumber. Why on earth would we listen to people's economic policies when everything else they touch turns to cancer? Where is their credibility? Because let's be real. Popularity in progressive politics is literally just pointing to a majority poll or making a moral pitch about caring for the marginalized if they don't have one. The administrative cost and the effectiveness, the responsibility of the citizenry, none of that is ever a factor because it's all about power. Because anyone who's even vaguely familiar with basic economics, supply and demand, manipulation of the money supply, state intervention in the economy will tell you any progressive solution to an economic problem is akin to throwing petrol on a bonfire. Their ideology has no contact with any economic reality. Far as the bread and butter issues are concerned, no one ever took them seriously on that because they never even discussed those issues. Less bread and butter, more bread and circus, I think you will find. I'll explain that in a rant later on in this video. See, all of this is a massive mountain to climb when your candidate was a mush-mouthed drunk and also incredibly stupid and had no personality, stuck in a dreadfully piss-poor performing administration. Claimed to be a new way forward, but needed to distance herself from said administration whilst simultaneously being unable to tell you how she will be any different, yet also why she couldn't do any of these supposed wonderful policies, which she never discussed, whilst she was in office. The entire campaign was a clusterfuck of contradictory goals I don't think even a skilled politician could have pulled off. Now we're just watching the cope and blame. It's fantastic. And this is nothing more than Anna coping, by the way. A buddy of mine pointed out that as someone who's experienced the failures of progressivism, to say this kind of bollocks is her trying to rationalize said failures as external rather than internal. It's a good observation, I concur.
Yeah. They have no power. I mean, it's just so ridiculous to me, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So when people tuned into our election coverage and they were like, well, why isn't Anna upset? I wasn't upset because I knew it was coming.
Yeah, so but there's a second part of that that's so important, Anna. You're right, it ironically ruins the progressive brand, even though it was the establishment Democrats that actually passed it into law in California.
Cenk, are you honestly going to, with a straight face, tell us mainstream Democrats are responsible for those policies and not obnoxiously insane imbeciles who are closer to Mao Zedong than even a 2016 Bernie Sanders? Fetch the men with the butterfly nets.
We didn't do anything about it, and it ruins it when we have incredibly popular policies, including Medicare for All, that polls at 70%.
See, what I tell you, polling popularity cited. Thank you, Cenk, for proving my point.
All of the economically popular policies are progressive.
Tax breaks are most certainly not progressive, mainly because you people don't understand the concept of percentages or the difference between the consumer and producer class.
But now you can't say progressive because they made progressive into pro-crime and pro-extreme policies. And so that was a hell of a trick by the establishment.
Oh, piss off, Cenk. Give me a freaking break. What kind of a stupid move is that? Oh, we're just going to enact these incredibly far-left policies that no progressive wasn't cheering on, by the way, all in an effort to brand progressives and their policies as failing and insane, as we proceed to get one buffled into the stratosphere and the Republicans take the entire government. I love how he tries to frame this as some Machiavellian 4D chess moves by the Democratic establishment, and not because his worldview and policies are shit and get crushed in the face of objective reality. But let's say, hypothetically, that was all true. But that just means progressives are rank amateurs and got outplayed by the bigwigs. Again, with this level of genius analysis, it's a mystery why progressive media is hemorrhaging subscribers and eyeballs.
But I think the second reason is equally important, because those policies had nothing to do with economic interest.
Are you telling me far-left identitarianism and crime does not impact economic interest? I mean, this kind of mind rot is why you should never bother talking to these people. Talking at them, however, different story.
And it didn't hurt their donors. So if you did Medicare for All, that would hurt Gavin Newsom's donors. If you did paid family leave, it would hurt corporate Democrats' donors. Higher wages hurts the corporate Democrats' donors. So they don't want to do any of that super popular progressive issues.
I want you all to keep this bit in mind because this is a key component to specifically the TYT progressive myth, the donor class.
Gavin Newsom was against the 18 minimum wage ballot measure going on the last ballot back in 2022, where it was polling at over 60% and would have won easily, right? And that would have given
California a massive increase in prices because that is the consequence of artificially raising the value of labor, you economically illiterate one who roams the Serengeti. I don't know what bizarro world Cenk lives in where every business owner and CEO rivals his body weight. The cliched corporate fat cat with a cigar and the peasantry who are working their fingers off all to keep their ribs from showing. And if only the benevolent state would intervene, the peasantry workers can beat the engorged glutton like a piñata and money would rain down like manna from heaven. What fairy tale crock is he smoking? Let me fill you in on reality, Cenk, seeing as you clearly don't live there. In the age of rapidly advancing AI, robotics, and automation, all that increasing the minimum wage does is accelerate automation. If a businessman can afford investing in machines who don't sleep, who don't get sick, who don't show up late, don't complain, he's going to consider that. Hell, TV pundits are already talking scripts. Give it a few years, you can make them redundant as well.
Over 2 million people in California, higher wages, but it would have cost his beloved donors.
Right.
So he fought tooth and nail against it, and he at least got it delayed until this year. But unfortunately, since all of his policies were so deeply unpopular, it smeared the ballot measure, and now it might not pass. So all of you guys did not get higher wages. He protected his donors perfectly.
Okay, I am not done with this part. I can't stomach much more of this. It's time for a much more reasonable voice to speak.
Me?
Damn, Val Kilmer was great in that movie. Now, there was one part there that made me roll my eyes harder than The Undertaker on steel steps. This complete BS of him bashing the cringe fringe, their identity politics, and engaging in the culture war, when a year ago on Valuetainment with Patrick Bet-David, he said this.
Start defending facts and stop playing politics. So can we, in an area of agreement, agree that maybe all this LGBTQ agenda that you have, sell it after I'm 18 years old, not when I'm in 3rd grade. Can we agree on that?
No, and I'll tell you why.
He just said no to keeping it away from 3rd graders. That is about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay, so the devil's in the details. So if you say to me, hey, don't let people have irreversible surgery before 18, I agree completely. Okay.
So check, we're on that on the same page. So what Trump is about to do, 50 states, he said he's not going to allow for that surgery to take place.
Just surgery, though.
Just surgery is where you are. Okay, let's see where you go next. Go for it.
So, but if you say, hey, they're coming after the kids, that's the oldest line of attack against gay people in the history of the world. They're coming after your kids. They're coming after your kids. I mean, look at the example you gave, how to give a blowjob, right? That doesn't say gay or straight. That's why I joked and I said, oh, we got to get straight people under control, right?
It's not straight people pushing this jank. Well, at least not straight men anyway. And how does this ideology spread? It can't replicate like heterosexuality does, so do tell.
Because straight people get tons and tons of blowjobs. And that's part of the reason why they put it into some, and it's misguided, to put it into some of those sex education classes, right? Does anybody go, we got to get straight people under control, look at them teaching blowjobs, goddamn straight people? No, because they don't want to demonize straight people. They want to demonize LGBTQ people.
By the way, feel free to flip a coin to see which is worse, his unbelievable evilness or his incredible stupidity, as we watch the point sail merrily over his head.
Instead, we focus like a laser beam on the LGBTQ community, because honestly, the point is to spread hate against the LGBTQ community.
So much for that whole identity politics culture war wank, huh, Jank? What do you call that? The man is so unbelievably thick and full of shit, I don't even know where to begin here. But the hate is a symptom, not a cause. If it was up to me, anyone who defends this degeneracy should get all of their technology confiscated and spend the rest of their lives in a prison cell. First things first, Jank. The oldest trick in the book against gay people, yeah, there was a time period where we didn't stigmatize homosexuality, Jank, and they weren't teaching oral sex in schools, you duplicitous psychopath. Find me a school teaching this depravity that isn't decorated in far-left propaganda. That might explain the targeting. It's called pattern recognition. He's the guy who never shuts the hell up about the donor class and money and politics, and no one checks his whale of a rear to go, explain to us why this minuscule minority that's objectively adding nothing useful to civilization in any capacity whatsoever is so well funded and everywhere. Where do you think that funding is coming from, and what is the ultimate goal in all of this? Why haven't you spoken out against Big Pharma making bank at the expense of the youth, you two-faced sack of ass? A sane person, which admittedly is a rare find these days, would ask, why are you supporting this cringe fringe community at all? Hell, why do you even support homosexuality even? Because I got news for you, a society that goes hardcore traditional and discriminates against anything that isn't heterosexuality is not going to die off anytime soon, because they actually produce offspring. All of these utterly demented trends that occur, and no one ever asks, where is all of this coming from, and why is this here? There is no conversation about any justified discrimination, standards, or the damage this is doing to the social fabric. As a matter of fact, what are you even progressing towards? The fact that that's even a thought, let alone discussed, that at the tender age of 18, when you have no children, no marriage, and you know nothing about the world whatsoever, you are now magically sufficiently versed and mature enough to decide to permanently cull your capacity to reproduce is fucking mind-blowing to me. Here's the hill that I will die on. Anyone who doesn't think that shouldn't be outlawed is anti-human and insane. But the reason for all of this is because these people live to worship the state. They do. Humans need purpose and some obstacle to overcome or goal to achieve, and these people are far too well fed and comfortable. Because all ties have been severed thanks to technology and the politicization of damn near everything in society, humans in the 21st century West have become very atomized. As such, these people are extremely susceptible to gravitating towards any cause that makes them feel like they matter. The problem is they don't actually want to do anything because all of their ideas involve granting more control to the state as they live vicariously through the power of government, as they scream about authoritarianism all damn day long. Will they ever see the irony? I don't know. I've never engaged with the leftists long enough to get to that point. Usually they start losing what's left of their already rotting minds the moment I mention monarchy, but anyway. But now that I've gotten all of that out of the way, let me explain some things about humans. So we're going to go real barebone here. Humans are mammals. Our social structure is hierarchical. Always. As such, all human societies run top down. This is the natural state of man. And all civilizations are tied to three things: ethnicity, religion, and politics. Human civilization is built on conquest and conquer. It runs on force for resources. Everything in between is justifying the use of said force for resources. In any civilization, that hierarchy is based on any given characteristics, be it strength, size, status, resource accumulation, whichever. Take your pick. This climbing of the hierarchy is to be undertaken exclusively by males who exist at the upper echelons of society and thus have their choice of females to breed with and pass on their genes. In a normal society, people would primarily value their kin and breed only with their own. This ensures their line lives on and the civilization continues. They think long-term, low time preference. And such exclusive modes of selective breeding results in superior and inferior people. Now, the reason we don't like to use those terms is because some people really freak the hell out and hear the imaginary sound of men in black boots and well-designed uniforms that would eventually get recruited by the Americans to land on the moon. Allegedly. But look back at the old days when a group was conquered. They would either be enslaved or killed. Assimilation was a matter of survival, not choice. It was forced, which is how it should be, with a sword and iron fist. So what you want about the cruelty, but it's effective. You don't have to worry about dissidents when they're all dead. War is done by men. Conquest and conquer is done by men. Law and order is enforced and kept in harmony by men. Infrastructure is built and maintained by men. Men are the building blocks of civilization. They are superior to women, who are forever biologically wired to care for the young and play the supporting role. And if any of these things offend you, I couldn't care less. Take it up with Queen Victoria. Any civilization that neglects to make men of iron and steel will decay and weaken and get conquered by one who does produce a competent class of warriors. When it comes to regulating the social order, a mechanism must exist. As Cortez points out, it's either internal, religion, or external, the state. There's certain things you don't want to permit in society to the point where the state gets involved, at which point your ass lands in prison. So the use of the state in a sane society, in theory, should be relegated to regulating the illegal and or harmful behavior. The other, usually by family and the church, social shaming and stigmatizing of certain behaviors. We used to call these things standards. None of what I just said is my opinion. These are all observable facts. Progressives, however, basically believe in none of that. The two most fundamental cornerstones of progressivism is blank slate theory. All humans essentially have the same hardware and can be molded into whatever you wish them to be via education, aka they just need the right software. They have absolutely no clue of the differences between human beings. They don't care to because they're delusional social engineers. Naturally, of course, I don't believe in any of this nonsense because I'm South African. We are intrinsically red-pilled by birth. Progressives, on the other hand, are a horde of morons who believes the only difference between those who build this versus those who build this is resources and education, and genetics play no role in any of this whatsoever. Because this was totally built by the natives, and not the colonial settlers, in Cape Town, South Africa. Sure, says the Party of Science, who can't define woman and thinks we need the government to stop the weather. And these are the people who think they're educated. What imbeciles. Oh, and speaking of imbeciles, this leads us neatly to Cenk's progressive myth. Now, in the mind of Cenk Uygur exists an incredibly simple friend-enemy distinction. If you agree with his policies, great, friend, political affiliation regardless. If you oppose it, enemy. The ultimate antagonist, the donor class. In Cenk's mostly hollow skull, his narrative is this: I'm right, you're wrong, my policies have no ill consequences whatsoever, and if only the donor class got the hell out of the way, we could usher in the progressive utopia and all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. I will say this though, if you're going to be a snake oil salesman of a swindler like Cenk, progressivism is the moneymaker for that. It's genius. You have a fairy tale utopian vision of the world that will never come to fruition, and you can dismiss any failed attempts at it as the fault of corruption because anyone who swallows that nonsense is a loyal moron too stupid to ever examine that claim and realize it's complete bollocks. That is his whole business plan. His entire ethos for his policy success is based on selective democratic approval, and any opposition to it is primarily based on said corruption and not because they're incredibly stupid, cumbersome, and expensive as all hell with no oversight whatsoever. That is legitimately how he sees the world. There is no connection with objective reality in his mind at all. Not a surprise, buffalo not terribly complex creatures, but anyway. And how does he use his comparatively minuscule media company to combat the giant sprawling hellspawn that is the Washington machinery? Oh yeah, by recruiting some fresh-faced wanker in a literal casting call who knows absolutely nothing about politics and sending her into a swollen viper's nest full to the brim with thieves, backstabbing psychopaths, and entrenched bureaucratic ticks who've been in Congress for longer than she's been alive. Why? Oh, in the hopes that she will fight the establishment. Somehow. To say this is hopelessly optimistic, borderline mentally deficient level of idealism would be the understatement of the century. This same dope said he's never seen a president in his lifetime actually do what they said they would do. And yet despite railing against the corruption non-stop, literally every single one of his policies involved granting more power to the state. These are the same type of idiots that would chastise me and label me as some kind of maniacal lover of authoritarianism because I desire a king. Yet these idiots want a benevolent bureaucracy that would, in theory, wield far more state power than the absolute king ever could, and yet expect more benevolence with other people's money. You know, thinking people, which apparently means only those with an IQ of at least 120, so we're cutting most people out of the loop here, would pause and think, you know, I've never seen this system work as it's intended to, and I've been alive for more than half a century. Maybe there's something really rotten in the state of Denmark. But no, Cenk would never do that because he might realize he's wrong about literally everything and he's basically a giant delusional fraud. The fact that he exists as a voice in any political arena genuinely offends me because he has the intelligence of a child. And maybe this is just me. But there is something rather ironic about complaining about the far left fighting the culture war issues when TYT stumps for the Skittle Squad. Cenk himself is apparently pro-union, and yet he threw a hissy bitch fit when his own staff wanted to unionize, and advocating for Medicare for all when he's shaped less like Hercules and more like late-stage Elvis. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.